The Talkline Communications Network proudly presents its flagship program, Talkline, America's #1 Jewish program, the pulse beat of the Jewish community, with Zev Brenner. And now, your host, Zev Brenner.
And welcome to another edition of Talkline. I'm Zev Brenner, very pleased to be here with you on WOR 710 AM. Tonight we have a very special broadcast. We're going to be speaking in just a few moments with Dr. Richard Roberts. He's a philanthropist. He's a mega donor to Republican and also the President Donald Trump. He was a senior political advisor to the president, top financial donor to him. He's active in the Jewish community, especially in Lakewood, in so many different areas, and he's been fighting anti-Semitism in Jackson Township. He also is a specialist of dealing with COVID. So we'll talk to him about where do Trump supporters go from here. We'll also look at COVID. You'll have a chance to call in with your questions, your comments as well. We are America's only Jewish radio programs on regular broadcast radio on the internet and digital platforms. We begin. I'm very pleased to have with us, it's been a while, Dr. Richard Roberts. He's a doctor of internal medicine, doctor of biophysics. He is a senior political advisor, top financial donor to President Donald J. Trump. Has given millions of dollars to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Very active philanthropist in the Jewish community. He's been fighting anti-Semitism in Jackson Township. And he grew up non-observant, became observant, and he took a company, a pharmaceutical company, that was underperforming, and in 24 years able to sell for $800 million. So, Dr. Richard Roberts, thank you for joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Seth.
Thank you. So I want, before I get to politics, I know you were the last person, civilian, to be with the president before he got COVID, and you're close to him, and you've been in the White House, and he's come to your house. But before we get to that, I'm curious to know, you grew up non-observant, so what was that like, and how did you end up being religious, and were you now a major fixture in the Jewish community, especially in Lakewood, New Jersey?
Yeah, well, it's a long story, but yeah, I grew up as a Reformed Jew, which means, you know, I think my kids are not listening right now, so I can say this. I did everything that a secular Jew would do, and I was, for Yom Kippur, you get up in the morning, Yom Kippur morning, you take a shower, you get in the car, you go there, to the synagogue at some point for like an hour and a half, and it's drudgery. You have no connection to anything that's being said. It's, there's all kinds of the secular lifestyle going on. So, but I was successful myself in the secular world. And when I was at Penn, University of Pennsylvania, doing my MD PhD, I really was thinking and searching that if the world is really just the physical world that we see it, then, whether something is pleasurable or not, it's just a matter of neurons in your brain being stimulated. But there's no ultimate meaning to it. And once you're dead and gone, it doesn't matter that you ever lived. So that doesn't mean there's a God, but it just means that if there is not a God, we're kind of in trouble, because they're really, in a sense, no better than squirrels. You could try to give yourself self-importance, but it doesn't really matter. So I was wondering, and I was searching, and I was learning. And as a Reformed Jew growing up, I thought I knew what Judaism was. But the fact is, I didn't know the very basics. So what happened was, when I was 27 years old and I was working on my PhD in biophysics, I was living in Center City, Philadelphia, and I went into a phone booth. People who are old enough of your listeners to remember what phone booths were. And there was a sticker that said, if you want to learn more about Judaism, call this number. So I figured, I'm Jewish, I'll give a call. So the guy who answered on the other side had been a hippie in the 1960s, and then became an Orthodox Jew, an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. He got his ordination at Smicha from YU. His name is Michael Stoback. And for about 3 years, I learned with him general questions about, and challenges. I would challenge all the time. And one of the things that impressed me the most about him was his intellectual integrity. So remember, I'd been in an Ivy League institution. I was actually at Penn for 12 years. So I was there as an undergrad also. But, this kind of intellectual integrity, authenticity is not what I saw. I saw people stuck in dogma. And I was really very impressed by it. So, make a long story short, I ended up doing inside learning with a rabbi in the Philadelphia Yeshiva, Rabbi Yitzhak Perman. And there's a Rabbi Menachem Zupnik from Passaic. At that time, he was in Philadelphia, and he he would teach classes at 10. This is out of the Hillel at night, and he had prevailed on Rabbi Perman to learn with me. And apparently, Rabbi Perman said, "Look, what do you mean? I can't learn with him. He's from the secular world. He'll ask me questions. I don't know anything about that. I've been an Orthodox Jew my whole life and for the generation. So apparently Menachem Zupnik just said, please just learn with him. So I went with Rabbi Perman for 1 or 2 days a week. It was usually 1 day a week in his home. And to make a long story short, I ended up becoming. It's a little long story, but I then went to Harvard where I did my internship in internal medicine at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. And then when I came back, for the first time in 13 years, I had a break. You have to understand, the first 48 months, the first 4 years of the MD PhD program, I never took off more than 1 day in a week. And usually I worked 7 days a week and day and night. So Menachem Zupnik was asking me to go to a camp in Moodus, Connecticut, run by Rabbi Rosenberg. He's Nifter now, but he was Rosh Yeshiva of Mechon Shlomo. And after being there for 4 days, I decided that I don't know if God really exists or not. But if there is no God and I lead a religious Jewish lifestyle, then I will have lost out on some physical pleasures. Or at least that's what I thought. But if there is a God and I decide to lead a secular lifestyle, then I have made the absolute wrong decision on the most fundamental existential question that there is. So that's when I started keeping Shabbos and learning more. And long story, but yes, here I am living in Lakewood. Thank God, married, 6 children, and I've since been able to be successful in business and made a few bucks and been able to give some charity and hopefully do things for the community.
You do a lot
and not just the Jewish community.
No, in general, what you give to Republican candidates is you've helped a lot of candidates, you've helped the president, you've given millions of dollars to the Republican Party, which is not a Jewish cause, it's an American cause for what you believe in. But before I get to politics, just curious, growing up religious-wise, did you have a bar mitzvah? Did you keep Shabbos? How did you observe any of Judaism growing up as a Reformed Jew?
Okay, so Shabbos did not exist for us. It didn't exist. As a matter of fact, when I first met Rabbi Skovak, I was 27 years old. He told me about the 613 mitzvahs. And I said, look, I never heard of these things, but you can make up 613 mitzvahs and you can say that that's Judaism. But I say it's not. Your opinion is no different, no better or worse than mine. For those who are maybe not Jewish, they may not get it. But for an Orthodox Jew, that's absolutely shocking. I could translate it into an example for Christian people who are listening to help them to understand it. But yeah, that came from absolutely, virtually nothing.
And you say your life was transformed, but once you became observant and you kept the commandments, the 613 mitzvahs, which are commandments that an Orthodox Jew was instructed to keep, you felt your life had more meaning. Did you find your success in business grew once you became more observant?
Well, so first of all, I didn't become an Orthodox Jew so that my life would have more meaning. I did it because, as I thought through it logically, it was the right thing to do. As a matter of fact, for the first year that I was keeping the Sabbath, I didn't even know that people go to other people's homes for the Sabbath. So I would spend from Friday afternoon until Saturday night sitting home alone in a little apartment where there were no Orthodox Jews around and, doing my best. But I also want to say, which I know that you know very well, these 613 commandments, it's not like some other religion where you have this like revelation and all of a sudden you're religious. We don't believe that at all, and that's not how it works. These 613 commandments are laws that each one of which has hundreds of sub-laws underneath them to try to perfect yourself and perfect how you serve God and perfect how you serve and treat and are sensitive to other people. So it's a matter of always working, and every Orthodox Jew is always working on trying to improve their ability to execute upon those commandments. And nobody can say that they've done it perfectly. And if you stumble, you get up and you just improve next time.
Exactly. The Bible is full of the greatest that have stumbled themselves up and do it. And as long as you try, Judaism says everybody has a chance, no matter where you are and what position you are and how bad you've been. There's always tomorrow. There's always a new opportunity. And that's the beauty of Judaism. And I think you found that, going through and becoming observant through your experiences that you've had. And you've been... I just want to say one thing, that if there's anybody listening who is not Jewish, you should know that whereas there are many religions that believe, if you don't believe their religion, you're going to go burn in the lower world, whatever. In purgatory.
Judaism, yeah, right. Well, worse than that. But Judaism does not believe that at all. Someone does not have to be Jew. If they're not Jewish, the Jewish laws do not apply to them. They don't have to keep any Jewish laws. They just have to keep some basic laws of Noah, from Noah's Ark, of not committing murder and having a system of laws and justice and believing in God, not having idolatry, just a few things, and then they're good. So we're not the laws are for the Jewish laws are for Jews to work on. It's not for other people to. We don't condemn anybody else or look down on anybody else who's not Jewish. They don't. In a sense, the laws are a burden to us, a happy burden, a burden that we happily accept, but it is a burden. If you're hungry and the food around is not kosher, so you go hungry. If when I was in the company, if a woman employee wanted to meet with me in my office, that was fine, but the door was always propped open with a trash can so people could see in. Or if the door had to be closed, there would be another person in the office with us. And as a matter of fact, that's just one of these Jewish laws. It's called Yichud, which when I first joined the company, the place was a wreck, and there were many gender discrimination lawsuits. And then when I joined, and when I eventually soon became a president and CEO, then what happened was when people saw that I wouldn't shake a woman's hand, I wouldn't touch a woman outside of my wife and children, or my family, but I wouldn't touch another woman. I wouldn't be in a room alone with a woman. People would say off-color jokes to me. I wouldn't laugh. I wouldn't respond. I would go on with the conversation as though I didn't hear the joke. And don't you know, all of a sudden, over the next couple of months, all of those gender discrimination allegations, there were no new ones. They all stopped. So you can set an example, as an Orthodox Jew, by following the Jewish laws and not hitting people over the head with it, but just doing what you're supposed to do, and thank God it can have a good effect on people.
Leading by example. By the way, Vice President Mike Pence also adheres to that rule of not being alone with anybody other than his wife, a woman other than his wife, and he was ridiculed in the media, but he's also a man of principles. A lot of fundamentalist Christians have similar kinds of values, which are important. We need values in our society, which helps us grow and think about other people, not just about ourselves, and look at the global picture. Our guest is Dr. Richard Roberts. He's a doctor of internal medicine, doctor of biophysics. He's a specialist in many things. He also took a company that was not doing well and made it to an $800 million company, which he sold it for. He's a philanthropist. He's a major mega donor to the Trump campaign, to Republican candidates. When we come back, we'll talk a little politics, we'll talk a little COVID. We'll also take some of your phone calls at 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925. Email is a wonderful way to get to us as well, zevbrenner@gmail.com, zevbrenner@gmail.com. I just want to mention that you should support local businesses in the community. Kosher restaurants, stores, small businesses need people to go in, especially during these times. I haven't been at UN Plaza Grill Restaurant on First Avenue, 47th Street, opposite United Nations. They lowered the prices for the Glatt kosher meals. It's a wonderful ambiance. The food was out of this world. And we sat outdoors. I like eating outdoors. I don't like eating indoors. They had a beautiful garden, wonderful, wonderful place. And I just want to recommend that UN Plaza Grill on the east side of Manhattan. Our guest, Dr. Richard Roberts, mega donor to President Trump, the Republican Party, philanthropist based out of Lakewood, New Jersey, very active in the Jewish community, helps so many different institutions, and also is fighting anti-Semitism in Jackson Township. So you were the last civilian to see the president before he got COVID. So tell us about your relationship with the president, and do you think that the election is being stolen from him, as he claims?
Well, okay, there's a lot there. So just briefly, so yes, I was one of a group of, I think it was 16 people who were large donors that met with the president at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, on a Thursday afternoon. And then that night, at around 10 o'clock at night, I made a video for it's called the LakewoodScoop.com. It's the Orthodox Jewish website for the Lakewood, New Jersey Orthodox Jewish community. A video about the meeting with the president and what he said and the things I said to him and whatever. Fine. So I go to bed Thursday night, and apparently Thursday night, meaning like around midnight or 1 a.m, the president tweeted out that he's diagnosed with COVID. And then Friday morning early, the Lakewood Scoop posted my video. So when I woke up, my phone was exploding. It was exploding with calls for interviews, CNBC, Wall Street Journal, The Patch, NewJersey.com, Inside Edition. It was just like Asbury Park Press. And it was insane because our festival of Sukkot was starting that night. So I was on the phone or video giving interviews up until about 10 minutes before I had to light candles. And they kept trying, most people kept trying to push me to say, apparently it was rumored that the president had already known that he had COVID when he met with us. I don't know if that's true or not, but they kept pushing me to say, like they say things like, are you angry at the president? And I said, no, I'm not angry at him. They said, well, are you afraid? Are you fearful? So they want me to say, sure. They want me to say, yeah, I'm very concerned. I might have gotten COVID, and then they want to say, President Trump, the super spreader, might have given COVID. And so I said, no, I'm not fearful. I said, we believe that.
And you didn't get COVID, right?
Well, so now I'll tell you a secret.
Okay.
I told everybody I was fine. I told everybody I was fine, and I did get some symptoms of bronchitis, plus a headache that lasted for about 7 days. But I used to have asthma, and I do get bronchitis from time to time. And now my cough was a wet cough, meaning productive cough, not a dry cough, which is COVID. I did not have aches and pains in my muscles, which would be COVID. I did not lose my sense of smell, which would be COVID. But I had the headache, which could be COVID. So anyway, this last Thursday, meaning a few days ago, I got a blood test for COVID antibodies. I specifically did not go get tested for the virus at the time because Governor Murphy, Democrat governor in the state of New Jersey, was saying that he said he's publicly going to refer to the New Jersey Attorney General's office, this situation for investigation to see if laws were broken on not spreading it. So even though we have HIPAA laws, I could just imagine that maybe because, when politics are going on, as you can see, dirty things can happen, that maybe they would have had my name pegged, that was my results come out positive for COVID. They would flag me and then it would come down on President Trump right before the election. So I held off, but I did get my blood test for antibodies on Thursday. I don't have the results yet. I'll probably do the next couple of days because I can talk about it now. So this point doesn't make a difference. But I was in quarantine for 6 months before that, and I've still been in quarantine since then. So there isn't anything I need to do differently. But it was that Friday, and then the day after the first 2 days of our holiday ended, and I could be back online. It was just interviews, and they're trying to throw curveballs at me, and I simply wouldn't say anything bad about the president.
Now, obviously, you're disappointed at the election results. Do you think that he has any path to be state president, or you're looking to see where do you go from here?
So I wouldn't say I'm disappointed about the results because there are no results yet. There's no result yet. In other words,
they're projecting that Joe Biden is going to be the president, the presumptive presidential elect. That's how they perceive him.
So when I sold the company, in 2012, That's when I was about 55, 56 years old. Since then, I've been trying to figure out what I'll do with my life when I grow up. But in the meantime, I actually started my own YouTube channel, and I did a video on this, on the Biden-Trump controversy. Now, I get involved in things where I think I can make a difference. I don't do videos just to give my opinion or just to state what everybody has heard before. So what I said was, don't bother getting upset at this point. It won't make a difference. The only thing that's going to make a difference is what the Trump team can put together legally, to put before a court of law. And, you can say, well, I saw a video and there's, 500,000 votes for Trump that were dumped in a men's room somewhere, Okay, do you want to, if it's entertainment for you, if it's like a sports game, fine. Don't get upset over it because it doesn't make a difference. It's going to be what the courts decide, what evidence the courts will accept, what legal theories are being made. I don't know what those legal theories are. I'm not a part of that. And then ultimately, if Trump wins on the legal arguments, then what will the remedies be? And then one could play out, game out all these different possibilities. I mean, maybe the remedies are that the votes in certain states are thrown out, and then neither Trump nor Biden have the majority, then it goes to the Congress where Trump would win. If anybody doesn't know about that, when it goes to Congress for a vote for who's the president, it's each state only gets one vote. So I'm going to make up numbers now. If California make up a number, 70 Democrat congressmen and 2 Republicans, so that's one vote for Biden. So if you do that, there are 26 states that have majorities of Republican congressmen, so congresspeople, so Trump would win. So, and actually there's no decision made by, I think, January 20th, who becomes president, the Speaker of the House.
Nancy
so
Pelosi.
It could be Nancy Pelosi. Right, except the new Congress has to vote on the Speaker. So, it'll probably be her, but who knows?
But in all likelihood, it does seem that Joe Biden is going to be the president. In fact, there was even some hints today from the president. The New York Post, you probably saw, reported that the president knows that the Biden won. Then he backtracked. But the question, though, is he going to concede or not concede? But the numbers don't seem to add up, and he's had some losses in the courts, even though Alan Dershowitz in this program last week said he can technically win maybe Pennsylvania in the courts, but it doesn't seem to be going his way. So if he doesn't prevail, what happens next? If Joe Biden becomes president?
Right.
In other words, what's going to be you get the game plan for yourself and Republicans. Even the Republicans did a little bit better in New York. They picked up a congressional seat. They picked up some seats in Long Island. They may do better. They did better in other parts of the country, so you'll have a divided government, which may be good because one party shouldn't control everything, whether it's Democrats or Republicans.
Yes, right. I mean, if we can have a Republican Senate, it can act as somewhat of a buffer, but presidents also have a lot of latitude. There are a lot of things that fall within the executive branch, such as foreign policy and many other things they can do by executive orders. And so, I mean, like Biden says, one of the first things they're going to do is to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal. So President Trump now has Iran down and out. Iran is really broke. They've had riots in cities all over Iran going on for several months. Iran cannot afford to fund their terrorist activities and terrorist groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon or Hamas in Gaza and others around the world. So Joe Biden or his team could do great damage. But I can certainly tell you that if Joe Biden does turn out to be president, I think most Republicans are going to pray for his health because we don't want the next one in line. That would be really bad.
Dr. Richard Roberts is our guest. We're looking at what happens now. The Trump presidency certainly is at a crossroad. Now, you are fighting anti-Semitism in Jackson Township, New Jersey. You went to the White House to get their help. Was the administration helpful to you in fighting the discrimination against Orthodox Jews that taken place in Jackson Township?
What happened in Jackson, as Orthodox Jews have started to move into Jackson Township, And what was revealed through litigation was that Jackson Township, on their own township email system, there were emails there that Jackson Township was conducting surveillance on Orthodox Jews praying in their homes. And Jackson Township employees found out when the Sabbath comes at sundown on Friday afternoons, and at one point they staked out three separate blocks, three block neighborhood in Jackson. And their emails, they talk about the men wearing the garb, meaning black hats and white shirts, and carrying Bibles. They went onto somebody's lawn and they looked in the windows to see if the men inside were praying or not. See, because if we were in there watching a football game or getting drunk or watching pornography, that would have been okay by Jackson Township. But if we were praying, then they claimed that we have an illegal house of worship. But we as Orthodox Jews, we pray 3 times a day. So we can get to, and we need to have 10 men together to pray, unless it absolutely can't. So we can end up praying in an office building. We can pray in a parking lot, wherever you are. You pray. Families get together. So yeah, that was pretty horrendous. So I did start a major multimedia campaign. We did commercials on cable news stations in this area. We had a social media campaign going, and just exposing the incredible discrimination that was going on, the harassment of Orthodox Jews. They also, by the way, Jackson passed new laws which made it basically impossible to open up a synagogue there. There's a Jewish school bought land. They changed the laws to block the school from being built. So they were doing, there's clear anti-Semitism. So actually, with the Bedminster event that I just told you about, I had been in quarantine for 6 months. I don't leave my property, but I decided to go to this because, number one, I found that the Secret Service was going to be COVID-19 testing everyone who was going to be in that building. So I felt that, with the Secret Service being dedicated to the point where they'll step in front of a gun and take a bullet to save the president, they would certainly have the top of the line, cutting edge COVID-19 tests to make sure that everyone there did not have COVID-19. So, so I went there because I wanted to say to the president, and which I did, I said that I wanted to thank him for his Department of Justice filing a lawsuit for religious discrimination against Jackson Township. And the president said, I like that. And so, yeah, that's what happened to Bedminster. So anyway, now that the Department of Justice has filed lawsuit, they are the 800-pound gorilla. They are the real forces. If DOJ is after you, you're in a lot of trouble.
Do you think that'll survive?
Unfortunately,
do you think that'll survive a Biden administration? Will that continue, in your opinion, if things move the way they look like they're moving?
I have no idea. I mean, I would think so, but I have no knowledge of it.
Dr. Richard Roberts is a philanthropist. He is a mega donor to the Trump campaign, to the Republican Party, very much involved in all aspects of the Jewish community. When we come back, our final stretch, we will open up our phone lines, 212-769-1925, 212-769-1925, extension 100. That's 212-769-1925, extension 100. If you want to send us an email, zevbrenner@gmail.com. That's zevbrenner@gmail.com. A reminder that we're Talkline Network 24 hours a day. We have a 24-hour-a-day listen line, 641-741-0389. And we're on WSNR 620 on the AM dial, Monday through Wednesday from 7 p.m. till 9 p.m., Thursday nights from 7 p.m. till 11 p.m., Saturday nights from 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. The rest of the time, TalklineNetwork.com. On your cell phone, download the Jewish radio app. We're part of that, part of Naki Radio. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. If you want to chime in about the president, we'll look at COVID. Final segment with our distinguished guest, Dr. Richard Roberts, Doctor of Internal Medicine, Doctor of Biophysics. He took a pharmaceutical company that was failing and sold it for over $800 million. He's a major philanthropist. He's a mega donor to the Trump campaign, to the Republican Party. We'll squeeze in a couple of your phone calls at 212-769 1925. That's 212-769-1925. You want to email us at zevbrenner@gmail.com, zevbrenner@gmail.com. Let's go to Forest Hills. Stan in Forest Hills, your question for our guest.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. It's a two-part question. Doctor, what type of pharmaceutical company did you have?
When I joined, it was a generic pharmaceutical distributor with a tiny, tiny amount of manufacturing. At our peak as a generic company, we were manufacturing about 2.2 billion tablets and capsules a year. But then we transitioned into a pharmaceutical technology and branded pharma product, and we actually got several, new drugs approved. But it's complicated. They're called 505(b)(2)s. That's what we did. Yes.
Okay. The second part is, let me ask you a question. You met with Mr. Trump. Was you wearing a mask at the time, and was he wearing a mask when you met with him that day?
So,
it's a yes or no question, sir.
Hold on, Stanley.
It's a yes or no question.
Stan, I'm conducting the show. Let him respond. He's going to answer your question. Okay.
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Don't be so impatient. Go ahead.
I'm not.
Okay.
What I said earlier was we were all COVID-19 tested in our cars. We weren't allowed to leave our cars until each of us had a COVID-19 test done on the spot by the Secret Service that came back negative. We did not have to wear masks because we were all negative.
But the president turned up with the virus. Is that correct? You said then the president had the virus. I mean, the logic is, why didn't you wear a mask anyway?
We didn't have to if you got the test. So the assumption was that you assumed everybody, including the president, had the test, right, Doctor?
Right. Exactly, Zev. And as a matter of fact, I don't have any evidence that he knew at the time that he was a COVID positive. There was a lot of controversy about that, but the test they did was just a couple little swirls right around the nasal opening. It was not the one where they have to.
How many other people at that event have the virus, or that you know of got the virus?
As far as I know, none.
Only him. Is that right? Just him.
Well, he didn't get the virus there. Wherever he got it, he got it. But whether he was
right,
but he was socially distanced from us. As a matter of fact, we got a picture. Each of us got an individual picture with him, and they had us socially distanced from him for the picture. And then they said they're going to Photoshop us together later.
Did they send it to you? Are you still waiting for it?
Yes.
Okay.
I got it.
Do you wear a mask now, sir?
He's quarantined, as you told. But go ahead.
Well, he's quarantined.
Right.
He's quarantined. Interesting.
Yeah, I've been in isolation. I've been quarantined because I have some risk factors.
All right, Stan, for your phone call. Were you a lawyer in your previous lifetime?
Are you talking to me or to him?
To you.
I think questions should be asked of anybody, him and me. So I have no problem asking questions. Whether I'm a lawyer or not a lawyer, that's the point.
That's no question. You can ask as many questions as you like. We have no
Absolutely.
problem.
As always, it's a pleasure. Your show's still the greatest. Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. Okay, we have a few moments left. I just want you to put on the COVID hat because I know you've done a video about that. So you've seen the numbers going up. What's your perception from a medical perspective about all the COVID information that's coming out now?
I'm glad you asked me because I just did a video today that I put on my YouTube channel. I'm going to go right to the point of a few things that I think are not being said. You hear that the number of people testing positive for COVID now has hit a crisis level, 157,000 in one day, which far, far, far exceeds what we had during the March-April catastrophe. That has no meaning whatsoever. Because you were testing many more people, you just don't know what that means. But what you need to look at is how many people are getting sick. And if you look at the graph of hospitalizations, people are in the hospital, were in the hospital, or now in the hospital for COVID, you can see that now with this wave, it has hit the highest level that it had before, and it's still inclined steeply upward. So that's really, really bad. This second thing is you'll hear the statistics about how many people died versus how many recovered. And what I say on my video is I say I'm going to tell you the number that people really need to know, although it's not available. I'll say it in medical terms. It's how many people are really messed up. There are so many people that are left with long-term disabilities, injuries from COVID, everything from shortness of breath to headaches to aches all over their body. What I'm really concerned about is there's no one in this world that has more than 1 year experience with this virus, except maybe people that work at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So we don't know what the 3, 5, and 10 year prognosis is, because this virus infects not only the cells of the lung, but also they're like skin cells that line the blood vessels and cause inflammation. We don't know how long that inflammation lasts. And inflammation of the blood vessels is what leads to heart attack, stroke, and also increased risk of many other diseases. So we really don't know if 5 years from now, you're going to start to see a lot of heart attacks and strokes in people that statistically shouldn't have them for another 20, 30 years. So what I want to say to people is, even if you've not had this virus, even if you're young and viable and you're not overweight, you really, really should try to avoid it, especially now that we're going around the turn towards the finish line with vaccines coming. You should really now, I know there's COVID fatigue, people are exhausted, but you should make this final push and try to protect yourself and not get the virus.
And you're in the forefront in Lakewood of getting people to make sure they social distance and wash their hands and wear masks. I know that you're big into also with the measles vaccination, so that's part of your pet project of what you're pushing.
Yes, I was. I mean, I hate to sound self-aggrandizing, but I think a lot of people would recognize me as being the world leader in the Orthodox community of pushing for vaccinations, and that happened back during the measles outbreaks that occurred and they've had in other communities also, but they've happened in the Orthodox community. But in terms of pushing what goes on in Lakewood, I'm actually in quarantine, so I can express to people, electronically, what they think they should do. I can write some letters or videos, but I'm not out there in the community. I'm quarantined on my property.
I want to squeeze in at least one email question. Paulette writes, Doctor, how did you treat your COVID? What did you take at home?
So I don't know that I had COVID, and I think there's a good chance I did not have COVID. I think I probably just had a garden variety bronchitis. But nevertheless, and I did tell this to the press, I took hydroxychloroquine just prophylactically. Now, the normal dose is 2 tablets twice a day, and I think it's 1 tablet twice a day after that for like 4 days. I just took 1 tablet a day, just in case. And I also have been taking zinc now since this thing started. But I don't think I had COVID. Really, I did not have most of the symptoms, and the cough I had was like I said, COVID gives a dry cough. I had a wet conductive cough, so I think it was bronchitis, but we'll see. Now, the thing is, if my antibodies for COVID come back negative, there are people that have had the infection, and they don't end up with antibodies, so I don't really know.
Well, listen, good luck with that. We look forward to get some great results. I want to thank you for all that you do. Dr. Richard Roberts is a doctor of internal medicine, doctor of biophysics. He's a mega donor to the Republican Party, to President Trump, very active in the communities fighting anti-Semitism, we heard in Jackson Township. And he just involved in so many aspects, especially in Lakewood, but beyond. So we want to thank you for being with us. If people want to watch your YouTube channel, how can they find it?
Go to YouTube and you search @Dr. Richard Roberts. I do want to caution you. That's a funny thing. There's another Dr. Richard Roberts, and he's an evangelical Christian who is the son of Oral Roberts, and he's now the leader of the Oral Roberts, evangelical empire. That's not me.
Have you reached out to him? It may be an interesting working together. Dr.
No,
Roberts,
I never even.
I'm going to recommend.
That's very funny. I never even thought of it. I just do my thing. He probably if you search for YouTube,
he's probably similar values. The evangelical Christian working very well with the Orthodox Jewish community. So maybe we can do a meeting on the air. That'll be our next broadcast. We'll get to Dr. Roberts and Dr. Roberts, right? Anyway, we appreciate your being on the air, and we look forward to having you back. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me, Zev. All the best to you and to your listeners.
That's about all the time we have. Reminder, we're 24 hours a day, talklinenetwork.com, talklinenetwork.com. 24-hour day. Listen line 641-741-0389. Please patronize our sponsors. And you can download the Jewish Radio app on your phone in order to be connected to us. And we're 24 hours a day. You can also email me, zevbrenner@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. See you on the radio tomorrow night. We're on WSNR 620 a.m. beginning at 7 p.m. Have a wonderful night. Thank you for listening.